Recording.
Hi, you're watching The Tattooed Psychic. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today I have a very special guest. I've been following him on social media for years now, and his name is Moose Harris, and he's out of Louisiana. How you doing, Moose?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me on your show. So yeah, you're right. It's about time. It's
It
about
is
time it
about time.
happened.
It's about we've all been on a journey, and
Right.
and I want to tell people about you because I like you. I like everything that you do. I've watched, and what I like about you the most is how you bring people's vibe up. You're not just a musician, right? I feel like I know you're a jack of all trades. You're a producer, you're
Yes.
a vocalist,
Yes.
a hip hop cat. Is that what it is?
I am a cat named Moose from time to time.
Yes.
My thoughts are like this. I have a lot of phrases that I'll say from time to time, conversation I'll consolidate in my head to call mooseisms. You know, word to somebody like Yogi Berra, that type of thought approach. And one of the ones that I have there is cheerleading. So I'm the type of person that likes to cheerlead somebody else's presentation of somebody else's journey. As long as they're on that particular journey for themselves and their own individually, I kind of try to cheerlead and instigate that on, and it filters through my music because that's the type of thing that I'd be interested in receiving myself. So I give it out in hopes of receiving it back sometime.
That's exactly how I am. I believe if we support and help others shine, it shines
Yeah.
back on us.
Yes,
Right?
definitely. I can definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you're super busy this summer and you have a lot of projects. And didn't I just read that you've just hit the hip hop charts of some sort, or
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed that. Could you run that by again?
when you were, I just read that you're on a chart like, oh man, I should have my information, but you've been really busy and successful and it's happening. So tell me what chart you're on and explain that.
Um, the things I had just been releasing. My syndicated radio show is called actually I have two shows, but my hip hop show is called Urban Flow SARS, and it's been on the air since August of 2010. And what you saw posted and what I've been posting out to the public is the latest episode that I published and produced on Mixcloud, called Urban Flow SARS, Feeling Better About Things, is currently now within the top 50 in the uh, global underground hip hop charts on Mixcloud. So
I think that's
it's just
cool.
another. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's that's aspirations to do. I think the highest I've ever gotten with an episode, I think I might have gotten top 20 once with an episode of Urban Flow Stars on Mixcloud. There's a couple other podcast based charts that I pay attention to as I release episodes on at certain platforms. Linktree/Urban Flow Stars to find all those places in one spot because I can't start listing all those things. There's a lot, you know. But yeah, it's glad because with everything else that I've been doing, it's good to be able to get back and produce a radio episode, especially since that particular episode I was able to do live. I was at a shout out to WHYR 96.9 Baton Rouge Community Radio. I've had a spot with them on Tuesday nights since what, 2012, I guess. So it was good to be able to go to Baton Rouge, be in the building by myself, and just go through that vibe of wanting to feel better about whatever is going on, whether it's for me, for the listener, or anybody else in between. And the chart results are coming back for that. So thank you for everybody for listening, loving, sharing, all that good stuff.
Well, I'm a believer, and I've been following you, like I said, and you're always positive. You're always trying to uplift people in some way, make them laugh too, and I'm just always happy when I see people get it back in success, and acknowledgement and growth and global acknowledgement. It's a big deal because you
Yes,
worked
it
hard,
is. Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Just being acknowledged and recognized is a definite good thing. Now, I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna turn into a superstar and reach the absolute heights of things, but just that simple symbiosis of
But you
me
might.
giving out to people. and people, well, I mean, this might be the moment right here, this
You
interview.
don't
I don't
know
know.
that. You just don't know. The universe provides.
Right.
You want it.
But like I said, it's just that simple symbiosis between me putting out things, the way I present things in the entertainment industry and humanities, and people responding back to it purposely, whether as fans, listeners, customers, whatever. It's just that back and forth, that give and take is what I strive for. Just try to see how much bigger it could get,
Right. That's a fun thing to do. And to me, it's like a fun thing to do. Because the bigger you see it get, the more you're like, wow, it can get pretty big. Much. It's a game, kind of. It can get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. It's all about experiences. It's like those books that we used to read when we grew up, where you choose your own adventure. So you're making the choices and you're trying to come up with plans and ideas and creative things to where you could really experience more things. Because I mean, for me, that's where it really is. Yes, I love money, and I definitely would not mind receiving money for the things I do, which I'm glad to say that I actually do now. But realistically, the money itself to me is to be used for the experiences that can come out of having said money. Just the places you can go, the people you can experience, the opportunities to present your musical wares wherever. I've been fortunate to be in almost 10 different states in the last year and a half, and I have
Yeah.
3 more scheduled this month to add to that list. So, being close to a dozen different states in the last year and a half, 2 years, even a couple of more if I went back before the pandemic, it was really about just having those experiences of being in those places and seeing what those parts of the country and being able to show that South Louisiana to wherever I'm at.
And we
That's
love
how it comes through for me.
Louisiana. Uh,
Yes, definitely.
and you were born and raised Louisiana, right?
Yes, New Iberia, Louisiana, to be exact, home of the 2 best hot sauces in the world. So shout out to Tabasco and Louisiana Red Dot, best hot sauce in the world, hands down. We can get into that conversation about how my area code has the best food cooking in the world and all that kind of great stuff. But yeah, South Louisiana, Acadiana, New Iberia. That's me.
And so, if someone were to go there, what restaurant would you say you have to hit this spot if they could only choose one?
Oh man, out in New Iberia? Ooh, if only one? Oh, sure. You sure you only want one? Because I mean, there are a variety of
There's
places,
so
and
many.
yeah, it's not just in my hometown. The quote unquote big town, the city place out in this area is Lafayette, Louisiana. And they have so many different places. You really got to take a road trip down here in order to experience the true food situation
That's
of
yeah,
Acadiana and area code 337. Definitely, it's not just one spot, and they're not necessarily all walking distance either.
yeah,
You know,
right, right. So, what do you have planned? Like, what's your vision for yourself?
my vision, I had the aspirations, and for some reason, oh, there it is. Okay, had to think about that. I'm trying to be as close to a Byron Allen type as I can. And Byron Allen is somebody who I would look up to. I don't know him, but I've definitely witnessed the results of his work over the years, what may have you. A comedian who came up as a comedian doing the presentation and just expanded into various platforms and shows and networking and things of that nature. He's the guy who owns the Weather Channel. So
Wow.
and
Uh-huh.
yet still he will still appear on, like, if you stay up at the right times at night, you know how you have those syndicated little game shows and TV shows and talk shows that come on late at night, like after the news and what may have you, because television and cable and everything is 24 hours now these days.
Right.
Well, Byron Allen's the type of person who has those type of shows, those little game shows featuring the comedians, those little talk shows where you'll have 5 or 6 comedians just talking about whatever. And he appears in it, he produces it, he owns it, he owns the space that is being broadcast and is receiving all the normal mass media benefits from it. So that's the type of thing that I want to do. I love doing music, love being a part of music, but that's why I do so many other things besides just being an artist. And that's even outside of the music aspect, where you're talking about my stagehand and production work that I've been doing for the last dozen years, or going into my 25th year of being a beer man at various concerts and sporting events. Shout out to the Saints, the Pelicans, University of Louisiana, Lafayette, Nichols, Tulane, all those different places. They all have tie-ins together in reference towards my music. Is all some forms of entertainment and business combined. But the objective is to really just, try to expand beyond just working those parts and having a bigger percentage, a bigger ownership. Because that way, when you have a bigger percentage, a bigger ownership, you can turn around and do a bunch of the humanitarian things and also go through some of those experiences that I was talking about earlier in life. So that's my vision, to try to go that Byron Allen style route in reference towards being somebody in the business or in the game, however you want to put it.
Right. And I love that you mentioned humanitarian, so you can help with humanitarian needs and whatnot. And that's one thing I think that
Oh yeah,
people love about you, is that you have this big heart, and you show it. And I think you just have this spirit about life. And I think that the world needs more of that. We should be helping each other out, and we should be supporting each other. And you're right, it does take money to do that.
definitely. That's one of the realities that I think any adult learns, and we should figure out a way to learn that earlier in life. Is that,
Yes.
yeah, you'll have all your sayings about it takes money to make money and so on and so forth. But realistically speaking, if you want to move forward in just about anything within your adult life, with or without any other types of forms of assistance, whether it be from parents to investors, you're going to need some form of your own with it, and or you're going to have to be very, very good in some bartering skills with people who networking wise or what may have you, because favors could be made as well. But there are a lot of little different everyday things I would like to help. I have a real economic, entertainment, tourist business type of mindset in my humanitarian efforts. And I happen to live in an area that is like one of the main cultural centers in the country, So I want to be able to build up things for the people that are here, while also give an opportunity for other people to come and understand and learn more about this particular area. I think the give and take between both of those are very good. You can call it tourism, you can call it whatever you really want. I just know that there are certain parts of my hometown that I would love to see built up, and I have ideas and ways that they could be built up. And I know other people that have those type of ideas. I see that all over Acadiana. I see that all over South Louisiana. I lived in New Orleans for almost 10 years until Hurricane Katrina. So there's definitely different aspects of that in my head that I would love to assist and help grow and make more appropriate, but it takes money to do so. So that's why, I have 6 figures worth of streams musically. That's why I have my online store selling coffee mugs
Your
and shirts
online
and things
store
like that,
today. I saw your online store. I like all the hoodies, and you got a lot going on. It's nice.
I mean, it's all different aspects of my life, one of my favorite MCs ever, Jay-Z, made the statement saying, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a business man," and that makes a difference. You could be somebody that's just a cog in the machine, or you could be the machine, and somebody like me, I try to be my own machine. I don't have to be the greatest machine. I don't have to be the biggest machine. It's like a line I said in one of my songs: may never be the best, but I'm damn good. Best believe that's the thing that'll be understood. And that's really the bottom line. As long as people realize and acknowledge that I know what I'm doing, and I can present it, and I can produce some good results on multiple levels with it for myself and other people, then yeah, mission accomplished. Hopefully that mission accomplished won't be for like another 50, 60, 70 years. But in the meantime, that's what I'm working for.
In the meantime, you stay very busy. So can I ask you, what was your childhood like? What has made you this person you are today? Was it a challenge, or did you have inspiration and encouragement?
I feel like I grew up in between, in the middle of a lot of things. The Mooseism phrase that I like to use in reference to us growing up was that I grew up as a middle class Huxtable. where my family on one hand didn't have the stereotypical money that the Huxtable family had in the Cosby Show, but we were nowhere near, the Evans family and the projects of the show Good Times. We were somewhere basically in between. So, two-parent household, one younger brother, was one of the first Black families, if not the first Black family in my neighborhood to move there back in 1981, just giving a little bit of my age. Um, Parents still live there. My dad just passed away this past December, but my mom still lives there, same spot. So my mom was a high school English teacher turned high school guidance counselor. My dad was a machinist. Did worked in the shops of things. I think Halliburton eventually bought that shop out, just to give you an idea what industry he may have been in. So they had artistic thoughts and aspirations. Like, they grew up being in theater club when they were in high school. Both my parents played sports when they were in high school. So basically what I'd say for me is that any little bit artistic aspects and things of that nature that they had, it just went supernova within me, basically. You know, um, I think they had their little spin of playing saxophone in the marching band in high school. I have experience playing 4 different instruments and doing vocals and rhyming and the production and the DJ. So it's just supernova. You know what I'm saying? My dad played basketball. My dad played basketball and later was a high school basketball referee. My mom played basketball in high school. Well, I ended up playing basketball, football, baseball, running track, and then coaching my little brother to a couple of national championships in track myself. It's just supernova and type of thing. Matter of fact, the way that you see me today and quote unquote being busy, I've always been like this.
Yeah.
Always. It don't change at all. So
good though.
Music was just one of those things that was a of the equation. It was cassette tapes and set recorders and original karaoke machines and things like that were my game systems when I wasn't playing on the computer or on somebody else's game system.
Right.
So now like I'm just trying to figure out how to make more money than I was thinking about figuring out how to make money when I was 8 years old doing this type of thing. It hasn't changed at all.
Right. Well, you got taller anyway, but
yeah, a little longer hair.
Got longer hair. Well, that's awesome. So I'm going to ask you, do you believe in that? What's your spiritual beliefs? I don't even know that about you. To me, I just feel like you operate on energy.
My spiritual beliefs are, well, just for a quick disclaimer, I grew up Baptist, and I still have love and respect for the church that I grew up at Mount Calvary Baptist Church in New Iberia, Louisiana. I use a phrase from them as my sign off for my radio shows or what may have you, even to this day. I'm not a church attender. I'm not a religious person. Dare I say that I'm not necessarily even a Christian anymore. I'm somebody who believes in the possibilities of things. If there is a God up there, then he knows how I get down, and I'm trying to understand more of how he gets down, and we're going to find some neutrality towards it. Whether or not that's a situation of him having angels or him having aliens from another planet down there. I really don't care. One of them needs to show up down here so we can make things better off. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I say that in one of my songs, Voicemail. If
right.
Cool, bring your angels and your aliens.
Yeah,
I don't mind either one, as long as they're on your squad. Maybe that'll be the ring that'll register to the crowd. I'm bring on Independence Day. It could be angels or aliens to me. So in reference towards humans, man, it's real golden rule-ish. I don't want to be messed over in reference towards things, so I ain't trying to mess over nobody else. But there are a lot of multiple truths, to use another Moosism phrase, that people need to identify in order to just straighten things out between each one. And there's not even necessarily an organized religion needed to do it. It's
right.
just that people have depended on it too much for the last 2,000 plus years, and here we are today.
Yeah. Well, I believe the same things as you. I believe in the power of possibility, because we can change at any moment. We really have to be careful how we talk to ourselves, because that does matter.
Right.
and how we speak to others too, because it
Right.
does create that energy of how we are presented in the world, and the things that we will attract, right? And
Hmm. I definitely believe in things being said out loud in reference towards the universe, quote unquote,
I,
because I realized as an adult, whatever thought whatever thought process anybody has, whatever thoughts they have in their head, you can never change that. Whether it's their conscious thoughts, their subconscious thoughts, their intrusive
right,
thoughts, whatever the case may be, you can't never change that. What always makes a difference in every person's lives, every single second, every single minute, hour, day of their lives is what they actually physically do with those thoughts. And if a
yep,
person can be in control of their thoughts, because ain't nobody's thoughts ever gonna be perfect. That's why they have the phrase intrusive thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So as long as people appropriate themselves in reference towards their thoughts and doing things about it physically, then when they're not really hurting themselves or anybody else, then that's the way I think things are supposed to go generally in life from person to person. It's really a case by case basis,
it
you know?
is. It truly is. But that's how I try to live my life, and my childhood was a lot different than yours, and it's so interesting. I always ask people about their childhood, especially people I look up to or respect, because I'm just curious how, as children, we develop a certain way, and as adults, we react to that childhood, if that makes sense. But
No,
it's
it definitely makes sense.
yeah, and so yeah, it's been a journey to me. But look, we're both on the same page, no matter what our
Okay?
background is, right? That's what's so
Right.
interesting.
That's basically really the bottom line. You know, if we didn't have so many different levels of labels in reference towards things, and you could use any subject matter. Like another thing I say all the time is that just about any conversation you could have could all boil down to two main things in life, and those two main things are either has to do with either technology or it has to do with population slash overpopulation. And really, the combination of those two things have led to a whole bunch of labeling and splits and cracks and things like that. You know, that's been a part of the human experience. You know, if people could get around those initial labels and just look at, really the person that's in front of them in more detail, or I don't even want to say a group of people, just the person in front of them in detail, and just do that hundreds of times a day, you know, then a whole lot more understanding, because yeah, a lot of people are on the same page. There's just so much labeling and differences in vocabulary
Yeah,
and lack of understanding of other people's vocabulary that kind of makes it seem like it's different when it's really not.
exactly. That's how I feel too. We're all on the same page trying to accomplish something. Um, and all anybody really wants when it comes down to it is acknowledgement. Like,
Yeah.
just to be acknowledged. Doesn't matter. Not everyone's trying to be, in the public eye or whatever. Just that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just acknowledgement as a human. And
Hmm.
that's one thing I know that we all definitely have in common, no matter what our backgrounds are. We want that
Oh,
acknowledgement.
definitely, definitely. Now, like I said, when it comes to something like multiple truths, I also want to keep in mind that in order to be acknowledged, you have to give something that could be worth acknowledging. Yes, I know there's a level of general acknowledgement for every human being in reference towards them existing, but I think the type of acknowledgement that me and you are talking about goes beyond just simply existing.
Right.
So you can't just be somebody that's ducked off, not really contributing and just being, and then expect to be the contextual type of acknowledgement we're talking about.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know what
I
I'm
know
saying?
people like that actually.
Yeah, I unfortunately I know I have gotten my list of people knowing like that has grown so much in the last 5, 6, 7 years that is absolutely ridiculous. Um, people just want things to magically fall into place and want that type of acknowledgement you have for simply being in the picture, but more like being in the frame. They're like one of the background people
Right.
painted in photo, and the photo's not even about them, and they're not contributing to the photo. They just happen to be somebody in said photo, but they want to be treated like they're the main subject matter in it, and that's not how it
Right.
works.
Yeah. I understand that very well, actually. And I'm
Hmm.
sure you do too.
Yeah,
We both
I
live in
definitely
the
do.
public eye. We both, you know what I mean? We both,
Oh
it
yeah, yeah.
happens. It
It
happens. I didn't
all the
know how
time.
many great friends I had when I was really, successful as the tattooed psychic. I
Hmm.
would be doing a show somewhere or something, and I'd get a call from the owner of the show or whatever, and they'd be like, or the theater, and say, well, your friend so and so said that they're good friends with you and they should be on the guest list. And I'm like, who is that? I think I met
Right.
them once. They're not good
I'm
friends. I mean, I'm cordial, I'm nice to them, but
right,
I don't know if
right.
we're
You're not
good
exactly sure
friends.
who it is. So that definitely means you've run into the situation where you might have been hanging out at a place, whether it be a bar or just a venue or whatever like that, and you're just normally hanging out, and this person comes up to you and be like, "Hey," knows you by name, and
Oh
in
my
my case,
God.
"Hey, Moose," whatever. You have a nice 5, 7, 10 minute conversation with them about whatever's going on in town or what may have you, and as soon as you walk away, you turn the person right next to you is, I don't remember who that person's name is at all.
Yeah.
I would assume you've gotten to that situation. Let me go ahead and apologize for anybody who hashtag hates Cinderella thinks this shoe is for you, but this has happened to me hundreds of times
Right.
in between Lafayette and New Orleans. The two main cities that I'm in the most of stuff. It's just happened so many times up and down I-10 where I recognize your face from somewhere in my
Me
past. I've
too.
been
I
blessed
always remember the
with a great
face.
brain, but names, nah. I got too many lyrics in my own discography to be
I
remembering
know I've got too
hundreds
much.
and thousands of names. I got
I've got
way too
stuff happening
many
here
to
with it.
record, let alone the stuff I'm spitting.
Right. I'm the same way. What sign are you?
I'm a Pisces.
Oh,
Saint
interesting.
Saint Patrick's Day every day since 1900.
I'm probably older than you, my friend.
You said it, not me. So
I'm not ashamed of it. I'm glad I
okay.
lived when I did, because I was blessed to. I was part of the Seattle scene. Lane
Hmm.
Staley used to babysit my son, and I got to see all these amazing people have their dreams come true, but also destroyed at the same time, as if you know the Seattle drug
Yeah.
scene stories. And
Hmm.
that was heartbreaking. I lost really great friends, but there was a time there in this Seattle scene when everybody was alive and young and healthy, and they were just killing it. And then success can either destroy you or make you a more humble person, I would think. And I think it destroyed a lot of those beautiful people, but I'm glad I lived when I did and got to have those
Yeah.
experiences.
I can I have I believe I have an idea of what you're talking about, but it's from the perspective of something that I probably missed in reference towards my life. No fault of mine, and you'll obviously see the reason why it's no fault of mine. But I think that the independent musical scene down here in South Louisiana, in between Lafayette and New Orleans. Lafayette and New Orleans, by the way, are 2 hours apart down either I-10 or Highway 90 down at the bottom near the Gulf of Mexico. I think those scenes, it I'm thrown off, and by thrown off I mean more so of time. I'm definitely a part of both scenes. I'm definitely involved in things and have been for a good long time. But I think chronologically things got thrown off by a couple of years, and those couple of years were just enough for it to throw me off age-wise personally. And by that I say that the South Louisiana music scene, me knowing where things were bubbling towards. Then you have Hurricane Katrina in 2005, and
Right.
then knowing what things happened and bubbled after that time period, and then considering the fact that if Hurricane Katrina doesn't mess up 2005 and 2006 and a piece of 2007, then those things that I know scene wise from say 2008, 9, 10, 11 could have quite possibly have happened in 2005, 6, and 7, and would have had things even, yeah, there's so many different possibilities in reference towards it. And I know that the scene that I'm talking about down here nowhere near touched the overall megaton impact that the scene that you were in in the Northwest during that time period was. You know, there's nothing I can speak on in reference towards uh, early 2000s Louisiana jazz, Zydeco, hip hop,
Right.
indie rock, or anything. There's nothing I could use that would touch, early 90s,
Right.
Seattle Northwest, you know what
Yeah.
I'm
I
saying?
mean,
And,
it
and
was
that's
a
what me just
time.
being up there knowing all this.
Yeah, it was a great time, It really was, and we all had a really good time until we didn't, I guess. And but it was sad, I lost a lot of good friends, and a lot, and the world lost, talented men, talented women,
Hmm.
and when Andy Wood died, it was over for me after that, because he to me
Right.
was everything. He was amazing. But yeah, that's what happened here. Um, West Coast meets the South, two different backgrounds.
I I'm thinking about like the way the scene is out here today, because I think the scene here is growing even further than what it was when I was younger. So therefore, using once again your scene as an example, anybody anybody who you remember from that particular scene that was older than you and probably would have fit more so in the new wave scene of a decade or so before, but then they just came along and transferred towards the alternative and the grunge scene for that. That's kind of like where I feel right now with the indie music scenes in between Lafayette and New Orleans now, as far as being the somebody who would have been more appropriately in doing this stuff in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, that age group, but seeing those of that age do it now, and I'm a part of that as well. And yeah, so that just to use your example, that's where I feel like I am in reference toward the scene now. So that would be the perspective I'd basically be
Yeah.
in these days.
And are you excited about the scene? Are you seeing some great talent?
I I'm seeing lots of great talent. One thing I've loved specifically more so about Lafayette, and even so New Orleans when it comes to music, is that how generally cooperative the venues have been out here over the years.
Oh, nice.
Like
That matters.
we haven't had yeah, as far as I'm concerned, and maybe it once again is a part of that upbringing and used to being the quote unquote black guy in all kinds of situations in life. I've never run into or seen people have a problem with well, I've seen it happen before in venues out here. Let me not tell no stories. Let me not lie to you. Those venues don't necessarily exist as far as places to be anymore, even if the venue somewhat halfway still exists. But the venues that people have steady it done from the independent music scene, whether it's moved from one to the other, the owners have always figured out a way to open their doors towards whatever genre of music was going on. So it that type of thing has led towards, as a matter of fact, this coming weekend down here in Lafayette is the annual Freetown Shakeback Festival. Freetown is a section of Lafayette, Louisiana, has the historical reference that an area called Freetown would actually have, here in the American South, South Louisiana, historically. And it's a location that it's a residential. It has residential neighborhood, also has bars and clubs and things of that nature. And the Freetown Shakeback is a 4-day festival that my friends Loaded Team Porch Squad, it's a hip hop group out here in Lafayette, they organize where they book all kinds of music, all kinds of genres. And this year is going to be at 3 different locations in Lafayette. It's going to be at the Blue Moon Saloon on Thursday. It's going to be at the Freetown Boom Boom Room on Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday is going to be at a place called the Loose Caboose. Um, those are all places I performed at before, all places I performed at over the years, small shows, big shows, what may have you. All the owners are really a part of the scene. A couple of them are musicians themselves in bands, solo singers, and things of that nature. So, it's that type of thing right here where the independent scene is really growing to where you could. I personally feel this area is almost at the point to where they want to put some sort of tourist yearly calendar together and say that in this calendar year, okay, this event's gonna happen in this month, this event's gonna happen in this month, this event's gonna happen in this month, and this event's gonna happen in this month. I really think it can be pulled off, and we can start having people like y'all come down and notice all this stuff that we've been doing,
I
you
would
know,
love to.
and not have to worry about New Orleans.
Yeah, well, I like going to New Orleans. You know, I lived there for a minute and I do
Hmm.
enjoy it. I love it. I love the food and the vibe, the music. I love it. It's one of my favorite places to go.
Yeah,
But I also need to explore other places as well, you know, and
yeah,
you're right about that. And I know that a lot of things are starting to happen outside of New Orleans. It's, I,
yeah. See,
yeah,
the thing about it is that things have always happened outside of New Orleans. It's just that stereotypically, when people think of Louisiana, they think of New Orleans first, and it makes sense. I mean, New Orleans is the biggest city. New Orleans is one of what I call a half dozen cultural centers in the country to go along with New York, LA, Vegas, Miami, and the Bay Area, which stretches out to y'all in Seattle, and as far as I'm concerned, geographically. But the rest of Louisiana is kind of like this. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I've never been to your state. The closest I've ever been was Portland, Oregon. As a matter of fact, what state highway and river is that goes across the Washington Oregon state line? That is the closest I've ever been to Washington. Going
I,
east to west across whatever state highway that is.
yeah,
And to my left there was a river, and the land on the other side of that was Washington. But here's the question I want to ask you. Stereotypically, when people think of Washington, they'll think of Seattle,
right.
Starbucks, grunge, Jimi Hendrix, Nirvana,
Weed,
the seafood catching the fish, all that kind of great stuff.
right.
But you know, as somebody from out there, the differences between Seattle and Olympia,
Exactly.
and how Olympia is Washington, is just as much Washington compared to you being a Washington resident. But you say Washington State to the average American, they're gonna think Seattle first. Well, that's how it is here in
Right.
Louisiana. You say
Exactly.
Louisiana, average person's going to think New Orleans first, but you have, Baton Rouge is our state capital with LSU and Southern University, and then Louisiana, and then Lafayette is Acadiana, which is, Creole / Cajun country versus the metropolis version of Creole and Cajun in reference towards New Orleans. It's
Right.
those type of differences.
Right.
So yes, I'm trying to figure out ways for people to come explore more of this area code, because New Orleans gets more than enough to where they can share, in my opinion.
They definitely do. And as long as you have, you know, hotels and like you said, festivals and bringing people in, a reason to come in, you know, because some people
Oh,
don't
that
want the hustle and bustle of New Orleans. They'd rather have, do you understand what I mean?
no, I totally understand what you mean. I mean, and this is some other statistic that I know because I rabbit hole over stuff all the time, and this is how I remember and know stuff. You know, Acadiana is, well. Let me back up first of all. What y'all call counties, y'all you may or may not know that, but you probably know this out here. What y'all call counties, we call parishes. Let's firmly
Yes,
establish
I
that
do know
first.
that. Yeah.
You know, so in reference to as Acadiana is made up of I don't remember the exact number of parishes it's made up to, but let's say about a dozen different parishes here in South Central Louisiana, 2 hours away from New Orleans. The population of Acadiana is twice the size of the city of New Orleans. Now, if you include Metairie and Kenner in that, it'll go tit for tat. That area will be bigger if you include Jefferson Parish. But Acadiana is roughly 620,000 people strong. So the combination of there being more odds on in this area, except that the biggest city out of that 620,000 takes up 120,000 of that in Lafayette. The
Right.
next biggest city in Acadiana might be 35,000 people.
Right.
So if you don't want the metropolis hustle and bustle, you can definitely avoid it out here in Acadiana. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
this is country, with Lafayette being the quote unquote big city at 115 or 120,000 people, which is what, a third of the size, a fifth of the size of Seattle,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Seattle's a crazy place to be, my friend.
I will get up to y'all eventually. Somebody needs to book me up
Yeah,
there again.
that's
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 what needs to
true.
happen.
You know, but our music, I'm not really involved in the music scene out here anymore, but it's definitely not anything like it was. Of course, I was how many 90s. Um, but I've seen some
Mm-hmm.
young bands and I call them new grunge because the sound is a lot like,
Okay.
they're definitely influenced by grunge. These new guys, these young
Hmm.
guys, and I was listening to them, and me and my friend were like, "Wow, this is the new grunge. This is totally new grunge because you can tell the influence, but they've made it their own, and I think that's cool." Um, but other than that, a lot of the clubs have shut down. It's pretty dangerous downtown, and so businesses are just shutting down left and right. It's not a great city
Hmm.
to be in as far as Seattle downtown. It's run by homeless. It's dirty. Businesses, like I said, are just because of the crime and the lack of police.
Yeah.
It's just a
Well, I
mess.
think any metropolis in America has that basic issue.
Yeah, you're right. It's
One thing one thing I've noticed in the various states and cities I've been fortunate to go to, and I know it'll probably happen in a couple of other states that I'm about to go to. I'm going to Portland, Maine, and
wow,
New Hampshire and Virginia, supposedly this
wow.
month, like a couple of weeks. Um, One thing I've noticed is that, yeah, the situation with the homeless, regardless of what city you're going to, whether you're talking about New Orleans or Lafayette or Portland, Oregon, or Jackson, Mississippi, or Memphis, Tennessee, Oklahoma City, it doesn't matter. You will see those homeless tents, you will see those tent towns, and every one of those metropolises, Austin, Texas, same thing. That's a growing American thing. That's a overpopulation thing in reference towards what I'm saying, or at least
And an
not being
economic
having a
thing as well, because
yes,
they make
yes. That's what I was
cost
about
of
to say.
living
Not having
so
something
hard.
feasible to take care of people.
Right.
So uh, what you're saying, about Seattle, I think is a story in so many different cities. The only difference between, say, what's going on in Seattle and what may be going on in one of those six or so cultural landmarks in the United States is the fact that those places are cultural landmarks. So people are going to show up in numbers every single day, and the situation can just perpetually recycle itself. Where in Seattle or Portland or someplace like that, they're known cities, but they could cause things to shut down, like what you're talking about, and stuff may not come back in some of those cities. The same thing might happen in a place like Memphis, even though it's known, it's still not one of those cultural hubs. In New Orleans, something shuts down, somebody's gonna buy that spot and build
I
something else.
know. They
Again,
go
regardless,
right
we talk about
down.
on Bourbon Street or
Right.
Frenchman or whatever. Same thing in San Francisco, same thing in New York, same thing in LA, same thing in Miami, same thing in Vegas. Something shuts down in Vegas, they're gonna explode a casino because they're building another one 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's really what the differences is. They all have the same issues. It's just a matter of to me of how they're set up to resolve, or at least
Well, the
sweep it
thing
under the
about
rug a little bit.
Seattle too, and then we can change the subject, but there's a lot
Hmm.
of money here.
Okay,
So,
I believe that.
oh my gosh, we've got, major money in this city. And that's what I think shocks me the most, is that there's this huge problem, but this is such a rich city. And like in my neighborhood, the average house is $1 million. And
Hmm.
I live on the east side, and I realized I become an east side snob because the east side is known to be cleaner. You go out my building, you don't see no homeless. Um,
Right, right,
and I went
right.
to the city the other day to watch a movie with a friend, and I'm like, it's so dirty here,
Oh,
and
look
I'm
at
like,
you, look
oh
at you.
my
You you
God,
done you done lost your New Orleans
I
soul just
lost
a
my
little bit
new.
right there. But at the same time, you're also the type of person that I know you would realize this because you've lived it. That I tell this to all my friends that live on the West Coast. The difference in standards of living between these cities on the West Coast and the cities down here in the South are so
So,
dramatically different.
so
Like
different.
when you talk about money in Seattle, the first thing came to my mind is that of course there's money in Seattle. It's not in the South. You know what I'm saying? It's like one of the main things I always use. Matter of fact, I'm gonna ask you right now, just off the top of your head, how much is a gallon of gas where you are right now?
539.
5.39. Oh my God. Five
How
that
much
is
is it where
high.
you are?
Now, I'm gonna tell you 2 points right there. This is the way I always answer this with anybody who asks me this question. Number one, the overall state of Louisiana record for the highest amount of gas anybody in the state of Louisiana has ever paid in history is $4.57. First of all, second of all, currently, if I stretch out the window and look at the Tobacco Plus, shout out to Tobacco Plus gas station that's right outside my window, I think it says $3.39 right now.
Yeah.
So in between here in New Orleans, I can run into the highest gas pump I've run into in Louisiana within the last week has been 371.
Wow. Yeah.
So therefore, but that's the reason why y'all can have so much money and pay for so much stuff and get paid higher than here, because y'all gonna turn around and pay right, but then y'all gonna turn around and pay $5-6 gas that has never touched the state of Louisiana ever.
Wow.
You know, never touched Texas or Mississippi or any of that.
Yeah, when I lived in Texas,
$5 now.
When I moved from the South to back to the West Coast, I was kind of in a little bit of a shock, like because of the food prices. It just like my whole life doubled. My rent doubled, my milk doubled, my gas almost doubled. I was like, this is crazy. Why do people live here? And I'm actually getting to the point now where I'm trying to decide if I want to move back to the South, because I love the South. I'm a Southern girl at heart, you know. I love the South, and so I'm not really a West Coast. Even though I got a little bougie here, it's like
it's so dirty.
Because I work for a company that gives me 30% off my rent. Otherwise, man, I could not afford to live in this area at all.
Oh, I believe it. I absolutely believe it. You know,
so I'm blessed in that
but if you took what you spend per month in rent, and I don't know what that number is, but if you took that, now imagine how much that particular number would probably give you in New Orleans today.
Yeah.
Or Lafayette, for that matter, which is a third of the size of New Orleans, you know, and has front yards and backyards because this is a country city.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that standard living game that I do with all my West Coast friends. No matter if they live in Arizona or Oregon, or in your case, Washington or California. This is the game I play with them all the time. We're like, how much is y'all gas right now? What? Oh no.
Yeah.
No. We're probably living life here in the South the way people on the West Coast live on a daily basis, probably back in like 2018.
Yeah. I agree.
Probably price wise, figures wise.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
if y'all were paying $3 something back then,
Louisiana for $750 a month, a house.
Oh yeah, no doubt. You know what I'm saying? It's back we were Katrina. How the last house I lived in New Orleans before Hurricane Katrina, we were all lost out on renting this 4-bedroom house because the landlord decided to go up to $1,300 a month for this 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that we were living at less than a mile away from the lake near the UNO, the University of New Orleans, over there off of St. Anne.
Wow.
And notice how the accent kicked in New Orleans South, so you can understand exactly what I was talking about. In Gentilly, off of St. Anthony on Curry Street.
Right.
Basically the corner of Curry and Leon C. Simon, right across from Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
We lost this house back in 2005 because a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house was going for $1,300 a month. You know how many people would love to have that option today for $1,300 a month?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna find that anywhere, I don't think.
No.
Well, my friend in Ohio pays $650 a month, and I think she has like a 2 or 3 bedroom. But that's Ohio. I've never been there, but
standard living situation. That Midwest, that's a whole other animal. I've never been there, but from what I've heard, that's a whole different economic animal there. Even that's more like failed industry versus never had industry, like the South is.
Yeah, and the South, I feel, has such potential of growth, and I think that it will keep growing. And unfortunately, a lot of people I was in New Orleans last June, and there were so many Californians there, and they had bought up a lot of the real estate there. And so their prices have gone up. And my friends who've been there, born and raised there, they struggle now to pay the high rent that is unfortunately happening because of that. Out of state people coming in and purchasing and turning them all into freaking Airbnbs.
Yeah, this is an example of when people use their money to purchase the experience instead of using their experience to give the money. That people stand to living. They have more. If somebody's used common figure, if somebody's used to paying $2,200 a month for a house, and then they move somewhere to where the house of that same size is roughly anywhere from $900 to $1,400, then yeah, they're gonna have an extra $800-900 to possibly go rent out some 100-year-old bar that barely was making a few $100s a month anyway because it was family owned for the last 150
Yeah.
years. You know,
That's what I love
shout
about
out,
New
shout out to
Orleans, though,
Donna's.
that
Shout out to
culture,
Donna's.
those roots.
Yeah,
Love it.
it's real. It's that balance. Places that, like I say, the cultural centers are places that hold on to what they've always been or how they develop themselves, and at the same time, the best way they've all figured out how to maintain that status quo of themselves is to basically present it to visitors.
Yeah.
Like every last one of those cities has that story. That's why they all are the way they are.
Yeah. And I will say this, last time I was there, they now charge to go to the cemeteries. You have to pay $25.
The the
I was like, what
not the
is this?
cemetery tours, the
Yeah, they
tourist
walk them,
tours.
and they have people there that never saw that
See,
before.
when I lived in New Orleans, it used to be all the horse carriages that used to take up all of the French Quarter, and the horse carriages are still there in front of
Yeah,
Jackson Square, taking people around every day. But these walking tours that are out there now, there have been multiple times within the last year that I have parked in the French Quarter, either going to visit a friend, going to a venue, or something like that, and nowhere near Bourbon. I'm blocks away from Bourbon Street. I'm dead in the
right.
center. I'm nowhere near Canal. I'm nowhere near Esplanade, and I'm nowhere near Rampart or Bourbon. I might be on Royal, but I'm in the antique side of Royal. The
Right,
antique shop
because
side
there's
of Royal.
parking there.
Yeah, and I step out of my car, and I guarantee you, I have seen as many as 5 or 6 walking tours within a 2 block radius of me getting out of my car on a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
Not even a weekend
yeah.
situation with people. That's just how it is. I
That's
don't
how
know.
they
I don't
make
know
their
what to
money,
make of
with
it. It's just how
building,
it happens.
right? That's the money
Yeah,
maker.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Kind
listen,
of
this
like
has
me
been
with
great.
my music and everything.
Right, you got to make that money, honey, so you can grow.
Yes, you ain't lying.
Yes,
Yes, definitely.
it is a journey. I pulled out of my career as a spiritual person, because I had a lot of trauma I had to heal from. And I'm
Hmm.
at that point in life where I'm reevaluating and deciding which way to go. But I really do enjoy interviewing people and like talking to people and getting their name out there. And that's what I like to do. And I don't know where that's going to go. But that is what my passion is. And I like you because you follow your passion too. And I just want to say thanks for coming on today. It was
No,
nice.
thank you. I always appreciate the time. Like, as you can tell, I don't have a problem talking,
Yeah,
but
that's
it
fun.
but I
That's
like it.
a good guess.
I like it. I like from time to time from the perspective of not necessarily being the person in charge of the conversation. Because I have 4 different podcasts, 2 music-based ones and 2 talk-based ones. So when I'm talking to my co-host or some sort of guest or what may have you, I'm the person that's in charge of the conversation, keeping up with whatever. And in this case,
Right.
I didn't have to. It's whatever you want to ask. I just started rambling and came out to this.
I love it
So
though.
thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
that.
much. And when I'm in Louisiana next time, I'll come do your podcast.
Okay, yeah, no doubt. We can
Yeah,
definitely make that happen. Either we'll put you on either Classless Threads or we'll put you on the Bug and Moose show,
there
and
you
both of
go.
them still have things. We're in pre-production right now for new recordings and new episodes coming out soon anyway. So yeah, you'd
Awesome.
fit right in.
Cool. So tell people where they can find you.
Well, the easiest way, just Google Moose Harris, MooseHarris. Just Google Moose Harris, at Moose_Harris on Instagram and
Right.
X. See, I'm so used to saying Twitter and Instagram like that, but it's not Twitter anymore. It's crazy. But y'all know what I'm talking about. Moose Harris Urban Flowsaurus on TikTok. I have a short link for my streaming music. It is amplink, ampl.ink/J4VA capital P. And you can retype that out of what may have you, but that would give the list of all the main places where I'm streaming. My next musical goal is to hit 500,000 career streams. As of this recording, I'm somewhere around 495,000. So go stream my music. My merchandise store, you just Google a cat named Moose, and the company used to be called Teespring. So it's Spring now, so but it still may be under Teespring when you're Googling. And yeah, my radio shows, Urban Flowsaurus for the hip hop, The Grapevine for the grown folks, blues and jazz, Classes Threads for one form of conversation on events in life, and the Bug and Moose Show for another form of conversations and events on life, just like we just did here. I think that's basically about it. Yeah, the music, the merchandise, the podcast. And if you happen to be in South Louisiana, I could be. Yeah, if you happen to be in South Louisiana or somewhere in the South, there's a fairly decent chance that I'm the one either that's built the concert or event that you're at as a stagehand, or could be slinging the beverages at you during it as a beer man. You know, Mr. Hydrator Intoxicate. That's what they call me.
And I did not know that Twitter wasn't Twitter anymore.
That whole thing, that's another whole rabbit hole. We'd be here in this conversation for another 35 minutes talking about
we'll talk silliness. About it. Well, let's talk again then. Let's have you on again after the summer, and we can talk about your summer events and how it all went. Just
let me know when. I have no problems doing this. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. Great talking to you, Moose.
Yes, ma'am. Same to you.